Welcome to part 4. In the journey so far, we've exposed the masked charlatan's tactics and lack of sincerity. From his contradictions and inability to take accountability in part 1 to his projection, deflection, and false claims in part 2, and finally, his hypocritical behavior and emotional manipulation in part 3, it's clear this individual thrives on confusion rather than clarity. We've seen him dodge simple questions, misrepresent his motives, and fail to defend his own beliefs while demanding proof and justification from others. Now, in part 4, we ask, is the charlatan sincere in his efforts to foster meaningful dialogue, or is his goal to confuse, manipulate, and impose his flawed worldview on others? Is his supposed ignorance a genuine blind spot, or is it a deliberate tactic to avoid accountability for his actions? Let's continue unraveling this spectacle of deception, and see how this masked fool navigates the conclusion of this conversation.
I don't understand what the point of this conversation is, honestly.
Sir, if you explain to me, I would know it then.
No, you had a science book in your hand last week asking people to pick, or a couple of weeks ago, expecting people to pick one over the other. If you don't know what science is, why do you have a science book?
But you know?
I'm asking you a question.
But do you
I'm
know?
asking you a question.
But do you
I'm
know?
asking you a question now.
Sir.
I'm done answering your questions.
No, look.
I'm done
but
answering your questions.
Know what science
You have to answer
then
some
why
questions.
Did you choose if
you have
knew?
to answer some questions.
If you didn't
you have
know,
to answer
why
some
did
questions.
you choose?
You have to answer some questions.
What question about what?
When the young gentleman inquires about the big baby of London's science book and his beliefs or knowledge regarding it, the charlatan responds with feigned ignorance, demanding that the young man explain why he had the science book and even what science is. This tactic highlights the charlatan's inability to engage in genuine dialogue, as he positions himself above others, believing he need not justify his own beliefs or claims. When the young man refuses to indulge this game, the masked fool pretends to engage by asking, "What is the question?" A calculated move to restart the circular conversation. This strategy allows him to deflect criticism and shift the burden back onto the young man, expecting him to rationalize why the charlatan would possess a science book if he claims not to know what science is. It's yet another transparent attempt to manipulate the discussion and evade accountability.
Why do you have a science book if you don't know what science is?
That's what I'm trying to learn from people. So I'm giving them options.
No, you don't come to Speaker's Corner to learn about science. You go to a museum or
that
a
should be
scientist.
Told to you. That should be said to you.
A library.
That should be said to you. You said you come here to learn, yes?
Yeah.
That should be said to you.
No, but I don't come here to learn about science. I come here to learn about people's beliefs.
Challenge people who have big mouths.
I come here to learn about people's beliefs. Guess where I learn about people's beliefs?
I don't know.
From them. From the horse's mouth. It's called primary source.
Primary source.
Yeah, that's something in your science books that you probably need to look into.
The masked baby of London claims he comes to Speaker's Corner to learn what science is from other people. The young man, in a moment of reason, suggests more practical alternatives, such as visiting a museum, a library, or even consulting a scientist if that is his genuine intent. Unwilling to accept this sensible advice, the masked fool deflects by telling the young man that he should do the same. This false equivalency is immediately addressed by the young gentleman, who explains that his purpose is to learn about people's beliefs and perspectives through thoughtful and meaningful conversations. Ironically, as the young man clarifies his stance, the big baby of London interrupts, talking over him and declaring that he is there to challenge people with big mouths. This response perfectly encapsulates the charlatan's inability to listen or engage constructively, preferring confrontation over understanding.
So, I need to go. What are you concluding now?
This was a big waste of time.
Okay. For you or for me?
Both.
No, not for me. You don't speak for me.
Okay, then why ask a question?
I asked you, what is your? I didn't say what is our count. You see, he's not paying attention to the
you
words.
said, what is the conclusion? I said this was a big waste of time, and you said, for who? Yeah. You or for me? So you're asking me, if on your behalf, if it's a waste of time, and I said, yeah, both.
The big charlatan of London once again asks the young gentleman to draw a conclusion to their clownish conversation. The young man, with refreshing honesty, replies that it was a big waste of time. Unwilling to let this go, the masked charlatan asks for clarification, asking if it was a waste of time for himself or for the young gentleman. When the young man responds with both, the masked fool becomes upset, claiming the young man had no right to answer on his behalf. What follows is a perfect example of the charlatan's chaotic reasoning. He seems unable to recall that he was the one who asked the young gentleman to answer whether it was a waste of time for him. The young man calmly points this out, exposing the charlatan's inability to track his own questions or maintain a coherent line of conversation.
No, sir.
Listen to the conversation. Listen to the conversation. Stop trying to argue for the sake of arguing. This is the point I was trying to make in that video. You argue for the sake of arguing. You're not actually trying to have a conversation.
No, sir. I'm trying to demonstrate that people here making claims, they don't know the meaning and definition.
Yeah, that's
this
you.
Is the two things
That's
that
you.
like.
But that's you as well.
No, you.
No, you as well. You don't know what science is.
So, do you know it?
I'm not here to answer questions. I'm going to ask you questions.
No. I said no, I don't know it. Do you know it?
What, science is?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a study of the world through physical
Study
means.
of the world. Yes. Study of the world, yes? Science is the study of the world.
Just repeating what I said in a funny way doesn't
Yes,
make it an insult.
because it's not making sense to me.
The young gentleman, having seen through the masked fool's game, tells him to stop arguing for the sake of arguing. He recognizes that the charlatan, baby of London, has no genuine reason to engage in this conversation, other than seeking petty revenge for the young man reviewing one of his videos. While the masked charlatan, ironically claims that people at Speaker's Corner lack understanding of meanings and definitions, he remains oblivious to the fact that he is describing himself. This lack of self-awareness further underscores the futility of his arguments and the disingenuous nature of his engagement. The masked fool once again claims he doesn't know what science is and repeats his question to the young gentleman. Reluctantly, and without referencing a dictionary, the young man explains that science is the study of the world through physical means. Instead of offering a constructive response, or providing his own definition, the masked fool chooses to mock this explanation, further exposing his ignorance. Let's take a moment to look at the actual definition of science and see how it compares. Science is defined as the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained.
So you don't understand what study of the world
Science is study of the world.
Right. I have no idea where you're going with this, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, what else is it? What else? Study of the world and?
If I went to a mosque right now, I had
That's
I'm
it,
not
yeah?
here to argue with you, bro. You came up to me to
because
talk.
you went on internet in my absence reviewing me.
What is
When
your
you
absence?
had the chance,
when you are in the live chat, when you
now
are in
you
the
make
live chat,
mockery of me. You make mockery. You mock me then. Now, why can't you do it now?
can't do what?
Mock me. You know you
Define
were doing
mock. Define mock.
bro,
Define
bro,
mock.
bro,
Define
bro,
mock.
bro.
Define mock.
This is it.
Define
bro.
mock. No, define mock. What's the definition of mock?
defining it.
No, that's not.
Defining it.
No, that's not defining it. That's you
Bro,
showing it.
bro.
Define mock. This is how you act. This is how you have a conversation.
After the young man patiently explains the concept of science, the charlatan fool continues to fire off questions, seemingly in search of any opportunity to attack, devoid of reasoning or understanding. As the conversation nears its conclusion, the mask slips for the final time, and the masked fool reveals the root of his frustration. He is upset because he feels the young man was mocking him. This low EQ charlatan has been consumed by anger, pride, attachment, and an insatiable desire to prove his intellectual superiority, all while the young man tried to maintain politeness and composure in an unnecessary and uninvited discussion. The masked charlatan's inflated ego blinds him to these simple truths, and his unwillingness to reflect on his own behavior propels him into a downward spiral of negativity. Tragically, he attempts to drag everyone around him down to his level. If you encounter this individual, proceed with caution. Do not engage, and do not fall for his manipulative parlor tricks. He may claim to be a friend or an advocate for honest discussion, but as demonstrated in this 4-part series, that could not be further from the truth. This analysis has revealed his tactics of spreading hate, fear, and manipulation. Ask yourself, would you trust this masked charlatan around your children? If you've enjoyed this exploration into the mind of a madman, please subscribe and leave a comment. Share any additional behavior you'd like analyzed in future videos, and stay vigilant against these tactics of deceit.
I understand nothing. I am yet to understand anything. I am yet to know anything. That's wrong. I want to demonstrate you know nothing about your word.
There's no point having a conversation with you. You don't need to have a conversation. You're here to just...
Sir, if you're talking...
Why do you have a science book if you don't know what science is?
That's what I'm trying to learn from people. Exactly, thank you. That's how you catch someone who does not know meaning, yes, and definition.
So I've caught you as someone who doesn't...
On.
But you just prove that you have no understanding of definition of meaning. I don't understand what the point of this conversation is, honestly.
Sir,